Hello everybody, welcome back to It's Current Year for another quick battle replay. Today a Beastmen versus Lizardmen matchup on Athel Tamara. I've been playing a little bit with the Beastmen lately. They're not one of my main races, but I do have a lot of fun actually playing Beastmen. I like the way they play. They are quite challenging at times to play with for a number of reasons, but they're a bit of a favourite of mine in terms of factions I like to play just to have a bit more fun. So checking out our opponent here, who's taken a fairly narrow Lizardman build. I saw on the balance of power here that it was quite a narrow build. I was probably expecting actually some Temple Guard, but he's gone the big boy Feral Dreadsaurian. Probably a little bit overcosted. Not one of the best single entity monsters in the game, but probably has a place in the Beastmen matchup just because Beastmen do tend to struggle with dealing with large targets. And obviously the Terror can be an issue for Beastmen with low morale. But a relatively narrow front line here, 4 units of Saurus Warriors with shields. We've got the Cohort of Sotek ROR. Good unit, high damage output, unbreakable, and with the Refuse to Die, they can stick in the fight actually longer than that. They can be a bit squishy, but they can stick in the fight with their ability to shrug off model losses. We've got a Bastiladon with the Solar Engine here. Not a great map, it must be said, for sort of straight line projectiles, but not bad in this matchup because Chaos Spawn are very good in this matchup, and it can be good for, one shot can take out potentially one Chaos Spawn model and really dampen their impact. He's gone Mazdamundi on Zlark here, so he's actually gone quite heavy on the spells. He's got Net, Curse of the Midnight Wind, Apotheosis for heals, and Arcane Unforging for the bubble damage effect, as well as his 2 native spells in Banishment and Ruination, and the Shield of the Old Ones, which, given he's gone such a narrow sort of front line, I guess is pretty good for keeping your forces intact and some damage mitigation. He also has 3 units of Pterodons, 2 that he's set up here in the corners, which is not a bad policy against the Beastmen, given they have a lot of Vanguard deployment, and he has 1 forward deployed here. Again, Beastmen, a lot of Stalk infantry, so good idea to have these guys forward. He brings them forward to check out my forces and see what he's dealing with in the early game, which is good to play, good to know what you're up against. So for my forces here, we've obviously got a bit of foliage here to deal with, but we have some forward deployed Centaurs with throwing axes and some Chaos Warhounds, and the same in the corner over here. But we have a front line of cheap Ungor Spear infantry, basically just a buffer. Some hit point sponges for our Chaos Spawn in the second row here, who are really, really good damage dealers, but can be quite squishy. So if you muck them in amongst cheap infantry like this, the enemy attacks get, hit the Ungors instead, and these guys sort of stay in the fight a little bit longer. 2 units of Ungor Raiders, which I think are a really good unit in this matchup, because the Lizardmen are heavily dependent on large threats. In this case, the Feral Dreadsaurian, Mazdamundi, large hitboxes. They don't necessarily have a lot of armor piercing, but with 90 unit models, the damage does stack up over time. If you can keep them protected, they're actually really good at chipping down large threats. We have Korx Man Rippers. Same idea here, anti-large armor piercing, which is going to be good against Lizardmen, who are a bit of a monster stomp faction. We've got Morgor with his Blessings of Chaos Spawn summon, and the Staff of Ruinous Corruption for another Chaos Spawn summon, and the Brave Shaman of Beasts with the Transformation of Kadon for some Manticore summons, as well as Flock of Doom. So we'll get the battle underway. I basically order a big full frontal. Now I wanted to kind of get these guys to move up through the trees here and around and out to see if he had any chameleon skinks, and try and sort of sandwich them back in towards my front line and get them dealt with. But given the small size of the battle, I probably figured we weren't going to have any of them. I do move these guys away nice and quickly. I want to keep them sort of hidden. Obviously they've been spotted by the Pterodons, but I can keep them in the trees here, just hold them back. No need to rush them in too early. Keep them around the back for some rear charges from the Hounds, get some damage into the Feral Dreadsaurian with the throwing axes and the like. So I do see these guys park overhead, and I keep moving these guys up. I could turn and shoot with my Ungors, but I decide to get right underneath them so I can get a few more pot shots in. I'm not too worried about the javelins. I'm a little bit worried about a rock drop, so I am at this point in the game watching my Koroks Man Rippers, because I figured they're a pretty good candidate for a rock drop, but he doesn't quite sit at flush, and now I turn to shoot with the Ungors just to get some damage in, try and screen these guys out. I've got my Warhounds moving around the back here to hide themselves once more in the forest. I'm in the trees here, so I'm not really too concerned with him shooting his javelins, but I don't want to waste too much ammo there, so I do pull them back. The frontline engagement, obviously, for the Ungors is going to go really poorly. Saurus Warriors and even the Skinks here are going to massively outclass them, but I just want them to take the charge, basically. Take the charge bonus, then get the Chaos Spawn in. Don't know what happened with these ones. They lost their attack order, and I really concentrate hard on this flank right here. Okay, I send 2 Chaos Spawn, I send both my characters in. I hold Koroks Man Rippers back for now, but I will try and get them in over here on Mazdamundi. They will move over. These Chaos Spawn finally get their movement order, and the Centaurs make themselves known, and he's sitting overhead with his Pterodons here, so I need to be a little bit quicker on there. Banishment going down over here does some damage to Ungors, but again, I'm not too concerned about this. He did a nice move there. He pulled his Pterodons back and actually pulled my Ungors a little bit, Ungor Bowman a little bit too far forward. So I need to move them back out of the fight, and I'm moving backwards with some Ungor Spearmen here just to screen for my Centaurs in case he lands with the Pterodons to try and hold them up. I send my Warhounds basically in here. I figure they won't do much in this big blob, but if I can stop these guys, the Bastiladon from firing, then that will be good for me. This flank's gone really well. His Saurus Warriors just haven't stood up against the Chaos Spawn, the damage output. I actually get both Chaos Spawn summon off at the same time here. A depleted unit of Saurus Guard got transformed, and I did drop my my Chaos Spawn summon here as well. I probably needed to get Morgor a little bit more around here so I could actually box in the back in case Mazdamundi wanted to go back, but they both went off at the same time there, unfortunately, so it was just a bit of a timing thing. Ungor Spearman here holding up the cohort of Sotek. That's a good trade for me. Their damage dealing potential here could possibly be significant against Koroks Man Rippers, so I'm happy to have them out here, and I'm just keeping my Centaurs moving. My Ungors are really healthy and online, so they're just chipping in on here on Mazdamundi, and it's just the weight of fire here. They don't do necessarily a lot of damage on face value, but 90 shots and a large hitbox means that will stack up over time. Chasing off these Saurus Warriors with these Hounds. The Hounds aren't going to do much in this main engagement, so I'm just chasing off fleeing units. These guys have actually fled and come back in. Again, best use for them is probably just to tie this guy up and keep him from shooting. There's a lot of Chaos Spawn in here. These summons are starting to degrade, but there was a Manticore summon somewhere in here as well. The Koroks Man Rippers are in here. It's a big pit fight. I have got another Manticore summon over here to try and get a rear charge into a Mazdamundi. I think I use him on. They've got really no ammo left, so I charge them in. Same, just tying this guy up, making sure he can't fire in at my Chaos Spawn, fire at Morgor. The Dreadsaurian has rampaged, and its leadership is starting to fail, and I'm just, at this point, I've ground through the infantry and the mass of the Chaos Spawn. The anti-large armor piercing here are stacking up against his larger targets. The Pterodons swoop down to try and deal with the Ungors, and we've got a banishment here which I pull away from, but I do get a bit of a pincer movement here with my Hounds and these Centaurs who are out of ammo, meaning I can pull my Ungors back through my Hounds and out the back and keep them online. I've got these Hounds who have regrouped once again, just coming in for rear charges. A Flock of Doom goes down to get some damage in the front line here. These Centaurs they probably need to expend their ammo, but they've been drawn into the fight there. The Lizardmen hit army losses with the Spawn chasing off Mazdamundi here, and the last of the brave little Skinky boys here will fight to the death, but other than that, the large threats have been dealt with, and that's the game. Pyrrhic victory. So good. Basically, the two you need anti-large against against Lizardmen. Their big threats are where it's at. They're a bit of a stomp faction, similar, I guess, to something like a Norska, but their infantry here, obviously with the Saurus front line, is going to absolutely plow through the Ungor Spearmen. The anti-large on the Ungor Spearmen isn't really designed to deal with. They're not damage dealers. They're, as I said before, the real damage dealing potential in this fight is Chaos Spawn. It's the Koroks Man Rippers. If you can pin in a large threat like the Dreadsaurian or Stegodon or something like that with the mass of the Chaos Spawn, debuff them with the poison, and then the Ungor Raiders here, 0 kills and 4 kills, but they put a fair few shots into Mazdamundi. I'm actually surprised that they didn't. Get a chevron between them here. So the kills here aren't what you judge them on, but they've stayed healthy. They've shot throughout. The throwing axes have been just annoying. The Warhounds have chased off fleeing units. Morgor with this summon is pretty much the only viable Lord pick for Beastmen. Do you guys remember when Chaos Spawn were really, really crap? Because they're really, really good now. Good mass, good damage potential. Like I said, you need in most 1-to-1 fights, Chaos Spawn won't perform that well because they have no armor basically and pretty low melee defense. So you do need to protect. They do need support in the front line. That's where the Ungor Spearmen come in. They take the charge, cop all the damage. Don't really kill anything in return, but they buy time for these guys. They're just hit point sponges. So good game there against Jar Jar Jonks. Thanks for coming by and checking it out, and we will see you next time.